Hey Zoe.
Hey Jackie, I'm so excited for this episode you have for us. I'm so excited.
Yeah, honestly, I am too. I have been working on it nonstop for the last few days/weeks, and we're going to go on a journey today.
It's like we're back in college, pulling an all-nighter.
Honestly, it did feel a lot like that. I've been up way too late the last few nights trying to pull it together. So I told Zoe I was going to do this episode, I don't know, a couple months ago. This was one of the first ideas before we even started, and immediately she was just like, oh my God, I can't wait. So I hope I do it justice.
It's mainly just because I want to talk about my dog.
Which you will have ample opportunity to, so this is great.
All right, get us started, Jackie.
Let's do it. So, first, Zoe knows what we're here to talk about today. Our listeners do not, but I made a mashboard that should hopefully make it very obvious, which will be the cover of the episode. Obviously, if you're listening, you also probably are reading the episode name, so you probably have an idea of what we're here to discuss, but just in case, Zoe, can you describe our mashboard for us?
Welcome to episode 8. We've opted against kids today, and we're going for animals. We're choosing a dog named Rocky, and he's a dachshund. So a wiener dog, for those who are unfamiliar.
Yeah. By the way, the name Rocky was entirely arbitrary. I just put names there, and then we got there via the swirl. So I did think about making it Rudy, but I figured that would be a little bit too close to home for Zoe's dog named Rudy, and this is meant to be more of a illustration of the point, not a specific call out to anybody. So we went with Rocky.
I do deserve the call out, as you'll see. Do as I say, not as I do.
Yeah, well, let's get into it. So yeah, we are here today to talk about pets, and specifically, like Zoe said, we're opting for pets instead of kids. That was a really intentional choice in this mashboard, where I really wanted to explore. I feel like a lot of my friends are getting pets, but not necessarily wanting to have kids. And this seems like there's a bit of a trend. So I just wanted to explore, what is our relationship to pets? What's our relationship to kids? Why are we in a world where we have BarkBox and Chewy and doggy daycare and all of these trends recently that maybe we didn't grow up having when we had pets when we were kids. So yeah, that's what we're here to talk about today. But before I get into it, I want to put Zoe in the hot seat and have her explain to us what her relationship to pets has been throughout her life, starting from her childhood, and then take us on the journey of what led to you getting Rudy, your dachshund.
Skipping over, happily jumping into the seat. My family had a dog when I was way younger. He was really like my sister's dog, and they had to put him down because he got old and was having seizures or something like that. And then when I was 7 years old, 8 years old, I had this legacy of a dog encyclopedia of dog breeds, and I would hold my parents hostage after dinner every night, and I would open to a random page. And I remember being obsessed with a Eurasian something or other. I've never seen one of these dogs in real life. I'd have to Google it. And finally, I broke them down, and my mom got a dachshund from a breeder. And dachshunds are famously one of the worst dogs to have with children. But I was mature for my age. And that's the kind of dog my mom had growing up. And so we had a black and tan dachshund named Frankie. And dachshunds are independent and stubborn. They're bred to go underground and hunt for badgers. Their name literally means badger hound. And those personality characteristics have maintained through the lineage all these years later. And then he passed away in 2014. I think he was eaten by a coyote because we would, against our better judgment, just let him out at night, and he never came back.
Oh, wait, so he didn't pass away, he disappeared.
Yeah.
Wow.
I was not there, yeah.
That's a traumatic ending.
Yes. We've moved on. I remember having this moment with some lady when we moved from Westchester to Connecticut. I met a lady And in her trunk, she had a really old black and tan dachshund that would have been like the same age as Frankie. And I was like, what are the chances this is my dog? Because it was like kind of gravitating towards me. I don't know what gender the dog was. Like, this is just like fantasy in my head. But yeah, so he was in all likelihood eaten by a coyote.
That is quite the conspiracy theory, though. How crazy would it be if he wasn't eaten by a coyote? He was kidnapped by this woman who you then saw later. And yeah, wow. I've never had a pet disappear in mysterious circumstances before. My mind is blown.
Yeah, I mean, it's not that mysterious. It was probably a coyote.
But like, you didn't find a body.
We didn't go looking. It would have been in like the woods under the brush or something. Where would I look?
I'm not saying you should be looking. I'm just saying that like imagine if that had been a sibling of yours. Like, you would go looking. You're just like, dog's gone. I don't know.
And the other part is like, I didn't learn of his passing until like a week later because I had finals. And so I came home and my dad told me. That was,
oh my God,
really what was more traumatizing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I had this dog from 2002 to 2014, Frankie. May he rest in peace. And then I didn't have a dog for all of like 4 months. You know, I was sad about it, obviously. And then I went to the horse shows. And when you're at a horse show, people have their dogs. And like, the barn next to ours had a pen full of dachshunds. I was like, all right, I need another dog. And so I started going on Pet Finder, which is the most dangerous website there is on the not dark web, on the light web. It's the most dangerous website. And I started just sending these things to my mom. And I was a sophomore in college. And then one day, I'm in the middle of the riding ring, and she calls me and she's like, why don't we go get the red one? And at the time his name was Peanut, and he was in Long Island. And like, my mom and I don't like go for spontaneous road trips. I was like, really? Okay, let's go. I'm going home right now. And we drove to Long Island and we picked up.
Oh my God, hold on. Sorry. I need to interrupt you. I do have a pet right now, and it's a Tamagotchi, and he needs me. I've kept him alive for a week. So I'm a really responsible pet owner, and I brought him with me to demonstrate that I'm a responsible pet owner. So sorry, I need to interrupt you to respond to my Tamagotchi and meet his needs. Oh, he is hungry. I'm feeding him right now.
This is so iconic.
Okay. My Tamagotchi has been fed. I don't know if you can tell how happy he is. Look at him.
It doesn't come. Oh, okay. He's dancing. He's happy.
He's dancing. Okay. Anyhow, continue. You and your mom, who never go on spontaneous road trips, decide to go on a spontaneous road trip.
All right. So my mom and I drive to Long Island, and we're not like a spontaneous road trip kind of family. We don't tell my dad. We just pick up this dog, and he is there with like 20 chihuahuas, and we're given this sap story about how his dachshund buddy was adopted like earlier that day, and it's so great that we came to rescue him so that he wouldn't have to spend a night alone without his dachshund buddy. And in retrospect, this is total bullshit, but we'll get there. And so we take the dog, and as soon as we are pulling out, my dad happens to call us, and we look at one another. We're like, oh shit. Because we didn't tell him about this, and now we have a dog. And we told him, and we brainstormed names, and my dad picked the name Rudy, which is very fitting. I would have gone with Theodore and called him Teddy, but Rudy works too. And then when my dad got home, he bonded with Rudy by feeding him some cashews. And then a few months later, I went to like check on the like rescue center that I got him from, and it turns out that they had been shut down for turning over, like, raiding puppy mills and selling them for a profit. And when we got Rudy, my mom was like, why is he so much money? And this guy was like, it's the cost of rescuing them. And I was like, and like, it just makes so much sense. He's not like a well socialized animal, and part of that is my fault for sure, but he also like pees like a girl, which can happen when they're like stuck in crates. Just like random things like that. And so this is all to say that he is an impulse buy. I got him in college. He is the best impulse buy. He brings me and everyone around me happiness every single day. My husband is obsessed with him more than, like, pathologically attached to this creature.
Oh my God, they are so bonded on with each other.
It's truly, like, the biggest problem we have in our relationship.
Yeah, just to illustrate that, Rudy was not allowed at your wedding because if he had been at your wedding, he would have been in your husband's arms at the altar. Like, there was no other place in the wedding venue that he would have felt comfortable being. So just for our listeners, that is the extent of their pair bonding.
Not only the altar, like the entire night.
Oh yeah, you wouldn't be dancing with your husband. You'd be dancing with your husband and your dog.
Yes. But I mean, every time we take him for a walk, everyone's like, oh my God, he's so cute. Like he is objectively, he is the cutest dog on the planet.
Completely rationally. Yep.
Now he's 13 years old, 13 and a half. He started graying young. He is completely deaf, mostly deaf, 95% deaf. And his night vision is going, but he sees pretty well. Otherwise, he's doing pretty good. I'm proud of that little guy.
Yeah, my relationship to Rudy is that our senior year, Zoe and I had been living together a year. She'd had this dog, it sounds like, for about a year, but it had lived with her family.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, there was no game plan for this dog, right? Like, I was still in college. Like, where was I going to bring him? But I got him signed as an emotional support dog for our senior year. So that's how I got him on campus.
Well, I mean, at first you snuck him in before he was approved. I remember those days.
It was like 3, okay?
Okay, well, they were 3 very emotionally impactful days. The very first day of class, I was cooking bacon and I burned it. And then the fire alarm went off and we were like, oh shit, public security, whatever they were called. They were going to come and check out on the house and we can't have them finding an illegal dog here. So yeah, it was a very traumatic experience. And then luckily Zoe wised up and got him registered as emotional support. And then he was legal. And then it was only my hedgehog, which was illegal. But we're going to get to that. Hedgehogs are easier to hide. You just slide them under the bed.
But yeah, and then Rudy is the best dog that Jackie has ever had because it was always her roommate's dog.
Mm-hmm. I lived with that dog for 5 years. And with Zoe, obviously. Maybe 4. I think I lived with you for 5 and the dog for 4. But he loved me. Before he found Andrew and pair bonded deeply with Andrew, I was his person. I was the fun aunt. So I love that little nugget.
Oh my God, my little nugget. I love him so much. I could cry at how much I love him, but we're going to move on. Jackie.
I'll take it from here. Well, actually, before you're done in the hot seat, I just want you to explain. I know he was an impulse buy. You didn't do a lot of thinking, but how would you describe your relationship to him today? Like, what do you get from having a dog? Like, what is that relationship like? How do you feel about it, etc.?
Oh, wow. I don't even know how to answer that question. I am someone who will always have an animal in my life. Like my husband, when his childhood dog died, he didn't get a new dog, until Rudy. Like that was like, I guess maybe not that long, 2 years or something maybe, but I feel like he still wouldn't have gotten a dog if I didn't already have a dog. Whereas I went 4 months and I was like, well, Frankie, I love you, but now I need another dog now.
Frankie, you've been brutally eaten by coyotes, but I don't care anymore. I'm moving on.
I wrote to him every night in my journal. I thought about him for a long time.
Okay, I'll forgive you for the faux pas of letting your dog get eaten.
And that's I'm trying to convince my husband to let me keep this cat. His only argument is that he really doesn't like cats. And I'm just like, well, and he doesn't want to get stuck with the cat for 20 years. And it's like, well, you realize I'm always going to have an animal, right? That is I'm a horse girl. I'm a dog girl. Apparently I like this cat too. I'm just always going to have an animal. Rudy is very needy, but I mean, and he's gets very territorial of Andrew and attacks me, and maybe we shouldn't publish this part. What was your question?
What's your relationship? What do you get out of your relationship to the dog? Or pets in general, I guess. I think you mostly answered.
They just make me so happy. They're just so cute. And I don't get what's the word? Something love?
Unconditional love? I don't know.
I don't really get unconditional love from Rudy because if Andrew's there, it's all about Andrew and like I don't exist. But that's why I need this cat, because this cat loves me. And they need, I don't know. It's just something about the like, this thing is just so cute and I could just stare at it and its picture all freaking day. And I just want to give it hugs and pick it up and squeeze it. It's a different form of affection that I don't think I ever really need from a human, but I definitely need because I'm filling it with this animal, which is probably where you're going. I have not read the outline.
Zoe has no idea where we're going. I'm going to take us on a journey. This is a really good foundation, though, and I think that makes sense. You're filling a need. It's you like the animal because they're really cute. It's not necessarily giving you the unconditional love back, but it's still just like really nice to get to take care of them and look at them and know that you're responsible for them. Am I paraphrasing correctly?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So I think there are probably a lot of people who are in boats that are similar to yours who would describe their relationship to animals that way. There's definitely people who are like, I'm also getting emotional support from their animals, which I don't think you're describing not getting, but yeah, I think there's a lot of different reasons why people are choosing to engage with animals on a pet basis. So I wanted to start this conversation because I am thinking about getting a cat. And I've had pets throughout my life. I don't currently have any pets except for my Tamagotchi, who is thriving. And I have also been, like I started the episode, I've seen a lot of friends get dogs who aren't necessarily that thrilled about having babies. And I'm just like really curious about our relationship to pets. And I went into this with a couple of questions. The first is, are we actually replacing babies with pets? Secondly, how do we make sense of the more recent phenomenon of like doggy daycares, pet clothing, like bark boxes, that sort of thing? And then like, why is it happening and what can we do about it? Or like, what do we do with this information? So to answer what our relationship with pets is, I think the first place to start is what our relationship with pet keeping is not. I read a really cool book called Some We Love, Some We Hate, Some We Eat: Why It's So Hard to Think Straight About Animals. It's by Hal Herzog, who's a leading anthrozoologist, and so he's going into all the different science, and he brought up a bunch of different theories and then either debunked them or not. And at the end of his chapter on pets, what I learned is that pet keeping is different in different human cultures. It's not a universal. So what that means is this is not an inherent part of being a human, which was a really big surprise for me because we're kind of raised with this idea that having a pet is an inherent part of it. But there are some things that like basically all human cultures do, like singing, having language. I actually haven't looked into what the other ones are, but there's like a lot of things that all humans do, and those are kind of like inherent in being human, but pet keeping is not. So instead, the theory is that pet keeping is actually kind of more of a cultural meme. It's like a social norm. And so that's why you see some cultures where pet keeping is like a really big deal, some cultures where they don't even understand what the concept of a pet is. And then within the cultures that do have pets, they have different norms around how you engage with the pet or what you do with that pet, what types of animals make pets and which ones don't.
Did he say what cultures don't understand the concept of having a pet?
He was talking about, he was doing some anthropological study. I don't remember what the culture was. I will put it in the show notes, but it was like, I don't know, Ethiopian or something, where in their native language, they didn't even have a word for pet. But I mean, also like think of American history, like pets were not a thing before around World War II. I guess pets were a really big thing in France in the 1800s, but like it was in vogue for rich people, but not for poorer people. Like it's very culturally specific. And so I thought this was really interesting that like pets are kind of like a cultural meme. It's just like a thing that you do because other people are doing it. The other thing that he mentioned that pets are not is that they do not provide clinically significant health benefits to their owners.
So all those studies about like you should get a dog and you'll start walking and you'll be happier, and people who have their dogs sleep in their bed with them are more likely to live like 8 minutes longer.
It's all bullshit. Yeah, there's a lot of studies that do purport to have health benefits, but those are really correlation. They're not causation. And when they control for external factors like your age, your health status, your financial situation, your gender, then all of the purported health benefits go away. It turns out that people who choose to buy pets start as healthier. It's not that getting the pet makes you healthier. That's not to say that it doesn't give you other intangible benefits, but there's no reported health benefits. Like, you're not going to have lower cholesterol. You're not going to have lower blood pressure. You're not going to lose weight. Like, there's no health impact.
But will you be happier?
We'll get there.
Okay.
Okay, so in this book, those are what pet keeping is not. One of the things that he posited that pet keeping was, and this is going to be a little controversial, the current theory that he said that resonated the most with me is that pet keeping is kind of like a parasitic relationship.
Like symbiotic, whatever those three terms were.
Yeah, think of like the bird species that goes to a different bird species and like kicks those eggs out of the nest and then lays their own eggs. We like pets because we like pets that have big eyes and soft features and are a little furry and like make kind of little mewing noises. And the reason we like those is because they remind us of babies. And so animals that are domesticated, like dogs and cats, I mean, cats are kind of domesticated, but the reason we like those and other small furry creatures is that they are tapping into the same parts of our biology that make us want to take care of a baby. And so it's parasitic in the sense that, like, we are putting energy that we would be putting into our own species into a different species.
And in a way, they're like, yeah, I'll sleep on your couch.
Yeah. You'll feed me forever? Sure.
Like Fern, my bastard cat here, could have been a barn cat. Like, that's the best of both worlds for a cat, right? Like, you can go play with this animalistic fantasy and then come home to a bed and food, and if it's raining you don't have to go outside, but she'd rather play with this thing and eat my dry kibble and sleep in my attic.
Yeah, she's choosing that, and you're choosing her because she has big eyes. So when you're like, oh my god, the thing I'm getting from my pets is that they're really cute, I'm like, oh my god, just wait till you have a baby.
And she screams at me.
She does. She's a very chatty cat. Okay, the next thing that pet keeping is hereditary. So like we mentioned, this is a social norm. This is kind of like a meme. This is the thing that you get from your parents. You raised with a dog, so you go on to have a dog. As Zoe described in her life, her family had a dog when she was really young, and then she got a dog when she was a kid. Now she has a dog as an adult. She will continue having dogs. This is because she was raised with dogs.
Is that hereditary or just socialization?
I mean, I like the word hereditary because it gets passed down generation to generation, but like, yeah, it's not in your genes. I'm being a little bit facetious. It's socialized and you pass it down generation to generation. I shouldn't say hereditary. I just like the word. It sounds cool. And the last thing that pet keeping is, well, I don't know how to finish the sentence. 97% of current American pet owners view their pets as family members.
Of course. Rudy is a first-class citizen in this house. Andrew and me are second, and Fern is third.
Oh, Fern, can you hear that? Oh, I'm heartbroken for you. But 51% of people who say that their pets are family members say that they are as much a part of the family as a human, which is pretty nuts to me. Half of pet owners think that their pets are as much of a family member as a human is. Not just like they're a second-class citizen, like they feel the same way that you do, which is like the pet is.
Yeah, of course. Well, like, we are choosing, like you said, we're choosing to take care of this animal. Like, I personally don't even think, like, you and I didn't choose to be here. We were born in here. So, like, you're taking on that responsibility. You better make it a damn good life for them.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. But I don't think it's always been this way. And I actually have some stats to prove it, which we're going to talk about next. But before we do that, I just want to pause. Zoe, do you have any thoughts, feedback, reactions?
No, it all tracks.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I think it all tracks. So now we understand what pets are not. We understand what they are. So next I want to take us to how that has evolved over the last 50 years in the US. So we're going to start around the 1960s. So in the 1960s, and actually before I get into this, I just want to say most of the rest of this conversation we're going to have today is going to be about dogs because that is the most popular pet and also what I found the most data on, but most of what I talk about here is applicable to other species as well, but I am intentionally going to be focusing us on dogs. So, in the 1960s, about a quarter of all dogs were free roaming in the US. Isn't that nuts? Like, how often are you walking around outside today and you're like, oh my god, that's a dog?
I would have not have coped. I would have brought them all. I would have been a crazy dog lady.
Well, I mean, at the time, people didn't. About a quarter of all dogs were free roaming, but some of them were still owned. Like, that was just what our relationship to dogs were. Most dogs slept outside. They weren't allowed in the house. They had fleas. Like, dogs were probably getting eaten by coyotes left and right.
Wait, like the 1960s?
Yeah, like pretty recently. I mean, pet ownership wasn't really a thing before World War II in the U.S.
My mom was born in like 1954. She was having these dachshunds in the 1960s.
So one of the other things I'm going to mention briefly is there's a difference between your purebred and your mutts. I think people who are spending money on a purebred dog are probably more likely, and especially like a lap dog, like a dachshund, you're more likely to have that in the house. Yeah, anyhow, a quarter of dogs free roaming. A lot of pets slept outside. As a result of so many dogs being free roaming and also like not being spayed or neutered, there was a lot of strays and feral dogs. And so the euthanasia rate of pets that were like captured off the street and taken to a shelter was 20% of all pets. So there was a lot of death, and I'm going to show my screen, and you can see that has changed over time. Can you describe the trajectory of the graph?
All right. So we're looking at dog and cat shelter euthanasia per 1,000 humans in the USA. On the x-axis, we have the year starting at 1970 going to 2010. And then on the y-axis, we have the number of cat deaths in the thousand.
And dog.
Yeah, dog and cats per 1,000 humans. So in 1970, it was like, is it 60 dogs, cats per 1,000? Mm-hmm. And now in 2010, we're at like 5. Okay.
Yep.
That makes me feel good.
Yeah, so we're moving in the right direction. And this was led by a few different things. In the 1970s and 1980s, there were a lot of campaigns that went out around sterilization. So it became the in vogue thing to do to neuter your animal. They also increased licensing fees if you didn't neuter your animal. And so that was one of the changes. And then the other change is that pet ownership became more in vogue. Like more people were getting pets. And so there were fewer pets being made that were unwanted and also more people wanting pets. And that's what led to this trend. And so now you walk outside and you don't really see stray dogs running around that much. Our relationship to pets at the time, to dogs specifically, was predominantly homeowning families with kids. Those were the ones getting it. It was seen as a rite of passage. Once the kid reached a certain age, it was how they would learn responsibility. And if you could afford to, you would get that dog from a breeder. And if you could not afford to, then that's when you went to the animal shelter and adopted a stray. And so that was the trend that started happening 1970s, 1980s. At the same time as this, there were 2 really impactful animal rights books that were published. The first is called Animal Liberation, which is a new ethics for our treatment of animals. It was published in 1975 by the philosopher Peter Singer, which, side note, he invented effective altruism. Not here nor there. This was an argument that was based in utilitarianism. Do you know what utilitarianism is, Zoe?
It's like basically everything must have a purpose.
Kind of, yeah. The purpose in particular is minimizing suffering or maximizing like happiness, positive emotions. And so this is like outcome based. This is like if there was the trolley problem, you know that one?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. You have like 3 people tied up on the trolley, you could pull the lever and it would only kill one person. Like the utilitarian choice is to pull the lever and only kill one person. So Peter Singer expanded utilitarianism from only humans to any animal because animals are also sentient beings.
If he was a cult leader, I would have been his first follower.
I mean, he kind of is. Effective altruism is a bit of a cult right now. They're getting really into shrimp well-being.
Oh, I can't get on board with that.
And then the second book that came out is The Case for Animal Rights in 1983 by the American philosopher Tom Regan. And this one is based on Kantianism. So it's not utilitarian, it's not outcome-based. Kant's argument, according to Wikipedia, is that humans are required to treat others not as a means to an end, but as an end in of themselves because they are rational agents who have free will. Like the fact that a human is alive means that they are deserving of like being treated with respect and dignity and having autonomy. And so the Case for Animal Rights took that same argument and said, well, humans are alive, or animals are alive. They have beliefs and desires and perceptions and memory and all these things. So like we should extend it to them. And so 1970s, 1980s, we're moving away from letting all these strays exist out on the streets, and we're moving towards a budding understanding of animal rights and animals being sentient beings. Therefore, we should give them respect. And it took a while, but this sort of movement has now trickled into our mainstream. Like, think of SeaWorld. Like, how would you describe our experience of SeaWorld these days?
Divided, divisive.
Yeah. And why is that? And it's the logic that these guys were introducing.
Yeah, well, because, what was that called? Blackfish, I think. Anyway, it's because we're taking away their free will and we're treating them like animals, damn it, and isolating them and not giving them the full perceptual experience that they deserve. Based on what you're saying.
Yeah, exactly. So prior to the 1970s, we kind of had this idea of like live and let live, or if the animal is bothering us, we'll just kill it. Then we're moving more towards a world where actually animals have rights too. SeaWorld is one such casualty of that. We also don't really have circuses in the same way. There aren't trained lions. We don't have dog racing or cockfighting.
Wait, there's no more like greyhound racing or whippets or anything? Are those all closed down?
There might be some, but I don't think it's nearly as popular as it used to be. And I think there's a lot more protections in place for the dogs. I actually didn't look into it, but yeah, there should be. And then the last thing in this like trend is a lot of Western countries now have animal rights enshrined in law. So like the UK passed a Animal Welfare Act in 2022, New Zealand in 2015, Spain in 2021, like not the US yet, but a lot of other countries now are giving animals legal protections similar to what are afforded to humans. Maybe not the full extent, but like we're now recognizing them as sentient beings who deserve rights in of their own selves, kind of in a Kantian way of like just because they are sentient.
They're here and they're taking up space.
Yep. So that is how our relationship to animals, specifically pets, has changed in the last 50 years. What are your thoughts?
I didn't realize it was so recent, like my parents' lifetime recent.
Yeah, I know. Me too. It's as with everything that I feel like we're going to wind up talking about on this podcast, it's one of those like post-World War II prosperity, 1960s, there was a boom and suddenly you have a middle class. And what does a middle class need? They need a white picket fence and a dog and a house and 2.5 kids and like all these things that we were sold. They were all invented in the 1960s.
Fascinating. They all came in a Sears catalog.
Seriously, literally.
When you got your mail twice a day and it was useful. It wasn't junk.
Oh my God, twice a day?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so that's where we were. That's where we are today. The next topic I want to talk about is how this impacts our relationship to pets. I think we can infer a lot of it, but I think it's worth specifically calling it out. My first point is also in that time period, households have changed a lot. So now we have people who are not partnering until much later in life. They're not having children at nearly the same rate. And so you have a large increase in people having this sort of like extended adolescence, young adulthood, living alone, like not yet having a family. And as a result of that, you would think since families with kids are the predominant pet owners that our pet ownership rate would be going down, but it's actually staying flat or maybe slightly increasing. It's now like 60% of US households have a pet. And the reason is because there's been a growth in people getting pets while they are single, not partnered, not with kids.
When did the like boutique dog breed thing enter the picture? I'm thinking like the French Bulldog, the Corgi, now the Dachshund. Like when did that start? The Doodle. It started with the Doodle.
Yeah, I mean, some of these have been around for hundreds of years. Like, think of, like, I think corgis have been, like, UK royalty forever. Like, the French were really into their weird dogs for a long time. They had a big pet movement in the upper class in, like, the 1800s. But some of them, like the Doodle, is definitely newer. And probably the 80s, if I had to guess. Like, more recently, 90s.
Early thousands, I would say. But, yeah, that's when I became aware of them. Anyway.
Recently. So yeah, we have a rise in single people having pets. And so when I learned that, I was really curious of like, what is our relationship to those pets? Is that different if I'm a family with kids and pets versus like a single person without a partner, without kids? And the answer is yes. It's probably not a surprise. I read a 2025 study. They called it My Little Son, My Everything: Comparative Caregiving and Emotional Bonds in Dog and Child Parenting.
I went to medical school and I could have been studying this.
You still can. It's not too late.
It is.
The conclusion of this was that humans in general are pretty bonded to their pets. adults with kids are less bonded to their pets, and adults without kids are more bonded to their pets. And so the parents understand that pets and kids are different and have different needs and are kind of in different buckets, but people without both tend to view their pets kind of as proxy babies.
For those who don't know, I live next to my in-laws, and one of the reasons is so that they can watch Rudy, our precious, precious child. And I know that they are like watching my every move to see if I'm pregnant yet. And it's going to be a while. Sucks for them. Until then, they get my ungrateful little piece of shit dog.
You got baby eyes staring at you all day. You don't need a real baby. You got dog. Okay, the next study, kind of similar, kind of not, 2025 study called Similarities and Differences Between Dog-Human and Human-Human Relationships. It was exploring which emotional needs we get from humans, which emotional needs we get met from dogs. I think you'll be potentially unsurprised by this answer. They compared people's pet dogs against your 4 closest human companions, your family member, romantic partner, best friend, and child. And they found that people receive more support from their dogs than any of those human companions except for their child.
What was the metric of support?
It was a survey. It had a bunch of different types of questions exploring different aspects of relationships. And so like they got more support, they got high companionship, and they had high opportunities to nurture the dog, and also few negative interactions. I think those were the 4 categories that they explored. Yeah, it was a survey. And so I think it's really interesting. Dogs are kind of filling this void in a better way than humans. But the paper pointed out something super interesting, which is that this probably stems from the fact that dog-human relationships have a more asymmetric power dynamic than human-human relationships.
They haven't met Rudy.
Oh, but you could also just put Rudy in a box and he couldn't stop you.
No, but he could be really sad about it.
He would be very sad about it. Rudy definitely is the exception.
Okay, so it's asymmetric, and like the obvious ways of like the dog can't drive, the dog depends on us for food and shelter and comfort and going to the bathroom without getting in trouble. And
Yep, exactly. Yeah, dog depends on you for everything, and so there's a big power dynamic, and so as a result, you can get your needs met, and you can choose not to meet the dog's needs in a way that you can't necessarily choose to do with a human partner or, you know, with another human in your life. Like the dog isn't going to talk back to you in a language that you understand.
Oh, I understand.
Okay, you understand Rudy. He's very vocal, but you know what I mean.
I never thought of it as like I could choose not to meet Rudy's needs. Like I said, like Rudy just needs a human, and we moved across next door to my in-laws so that he always has a human. Always. Even if we go out to dinner. Always.
That dog is very spoiled, and he is very lucky because of it. Okay, so we're getting a lot of emotional support from our pets, especially single people who don't have kids yet are getting a lot of emotional support and companionship and nurturing from their pets. The cost difference between having a pet and a baby is pretty extreme. The average household spends $1,700 a year per pet, but the average household with kids spends $15,000 a year per kid.
That's a lowball estimate for kids, too.
Yeah, I'm sure it's more expensive in years that they're in childcare, less expensive other years, but like that is an order of magnitude difference. You are not signing that dog up for soccer practice and SAT tutors and whatever. Like, yeah, your kid is getting a lot more. So I can understand why people would be choosing to have a pet over a kid when there's an order of magnitude price difference.
It's more accessible.
Significantly. Okay, so the last thing I wanted to explore about the finances, we're talking about how it's $1.7K a year. But I wanted to look at how that has changed over time. And I found a really compelling stat, which is that between 2013 and 2021, annual incomes rose 45%. Our general entertainment expenditures rose 47%, which is just about the same. But our pet spending is nearly double. It rose 78%. I also put a graph on the screen, which is showing something really similar, except it goes all the way back to 1960, which is the relative expenditure of pets relative to personal consumption. And it has maybe like 3 or 4x'd since 1960. So we're having the same amount of pets that as we did before, and we're spending more on them relative to our income than we did before. So we are increasingly treating them like little consumers, little capitalist engines, not just like, you know, the dog who sleeps out in the doghouse and might, you know, run away and then get caught and whatever.
I will say, in my defense, we have not fallen for that trap. Rudy does not get a bark box. He doesn't need any of that. He gets to pick a new toy out every few months from Petco, and that's about it. I mean, I get him groomed and stuff like every 3 months, but like no bark box, no doggy daycare. If my in-laws are not around, he goes to like the neighbor down the street.
Yeah. You've avoided the commercialization.
Yeah. But I should have exploited him when he was young. Ugh. I should have signed him up for commercials.
We did make an Instagram account for him that had maybe 50 followers.
That's true. Our first foray.
It didn't go anywhere. This is before the day of big Instagram. Okay, how would you summarize everything that I've taught you so far?
Okay. So prior to 1960s, we did not have this like animal culture that we have now. And then over the years, we've let them into our homes in a way that has more and more resembled human children. And it has followed in the economy as well.
Yeah. Good summary. Okay, so we could end the conversation here and be like, okay, cool, we figured it out. We understand our relationship to pets now. We've seen it change over time. We understand where it is now, and we also understand the economic factors that would lead someone to choose a pet over having a baby. But I think if we ended the conversation now, I'm only telling half of the story. So, what am I missing? You don't have to know the answer. I'm just curious if you can think of it.
What's predicted for the future? Like, are we gonna continue to like treat animals like royalty and have fewer kids as a result?
It's a good guess. It's not quite the direction I'm taking, but I will be touching kind of on something like that.
Oh, good, because Elon Musk would be so disappointed.
On us replacing kids with babies? Oh my God. Or whatever. Yeah, kids with dogs.
Are the animals happy?
Yeah, bingo.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I think Fern's pretty happy right now.
Yeah, the second half of the conversation, in my opinion, is what is the animal's perspective? We've only talked about the human half. What are we getting from the animals? Why are we getting animals? How do we feel about it? But the other thing I was really curious about is like, I don't know, are the animals happy?
There's a really interesting book, and it's really tangential to this, called An Immense World by Ed Young. And it talks about like the different sensory systems that animals have. And like they can see different spectrums of light, or like they can withstand things. And it's like things that we as humans cannot even fathom because it's not one of our like 5 senses. He was on, I think, either Dax Shepard or the Ritual podcast, which was like a really interesting like synopsis of the whole thing. But the book was also pretty interesting. Anyway, continue.
That's cool. Yeah. I mean, I feel like that's related to what my next point is, which is how do you measure like animal welfare? Like you can't just ask them if they're happy. And so to your point, animals have very different like biological situations, dispositions, needs than humans.
Yeah, I have one cat who's a raging bitch downstairs, doesn't want me to touch her, and I have another cat who is happy as a clam. So right now I'm batting 1 for 2.
Hey, that's pretty good. So we can rely on the field of animal welfare science because they have attempted to answer this question. And for 30 plus years, they have been creating and maintaining and updating a model that they call the 5 domains model for animal welfare assessment. And we can use this model to understand the welfare of all sorts of animals, from wild animals, farm animals, working animals, pets. It just gives us a framework of like, it's kind of like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, where you can like categorically say this is a type of need, this is a different type of need, this is a different type of need. And I'm going to put it on the screen. Can you read our 5 domains?
So the welfare state is determined by nutrition. Do they have food and water and enough of it? Are they like stimulated in their environment? Are they in good health? Behavior, I don't really know what that means.
That one's complicated. I have examples.
Behaviorally sound and mental domain. I guess, do they understand that they are being fulfilled in these 4 other domains?
Yeah, I think for somebody not knowing what you're talking about, that's a really good summary. Yeah, so there's 3 really obvious physical domains, and I think these are what we probably think of when we are thinking about animal welfare. It's like, do they have food and water? Are they in an environment that's the right temperature and has the right supplies in it? And are they healthy? And then number 4, they call it behavior or behavioral interaction. And this is about kind of agency. Like, can the animal do what it sets out to do? Do they have freedom? Can they make choices? That sort of thing. And then the 4 physical domains, including the behavior one, ladder up to the mental domain, which is their like perception of it. It's their emotions. And so this is something like hunger, anxiety, fear, distress, but it's also things like happiness, joy, like contentment. It's like the emotional element to it. Because you could be like, your physical being could be, underfed, and you can be experiencing like pain and hunger. And those are like 2 separate buckets, even though they're like obviously really related.
Like happiness and joy, like that sounds like anthropomorphizing an animal. Like at the end, like in the wild, they're just driven to like eat and sleep and survive. Like there is no happiness or joy about it. It's like instinct.
I mean, I think that that's a bit reductive. I still like when you give Rudy a treat, like he's happy about it. He's like excited. He expresses like joy. And like, I think I might be using the wrong word when I'm saying joy or happiness. Like I think those aren't really the things we're focused on. And actually the next slide is probably too small to see, but it has examples. But in the positive mental domain, it has things like comfort, calmness, engagement, gratification, playfulness. Like those are some of the positive emotions. And then some of the negative ones are like anger, frustration, boredom, helplessness, loneliness. And like your dog might not be able to really conceptualize why it's feeling that way, but it still will have the feeling of loneliness if you leave it alone all the time.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Fair. Like Blackfish.
Yeah, exactly. So anyhow, we have this method of measuring animal welfare, like this graphic on the screen, which is way too complicated to run through everything of. There are kind of negative and positive affects. You can be hungry or you can be satiated. You can have disease or you can be free from disease. You can have, you could be locked in a cage or you could have free movement. Like there's a positive and a negative of each of these. And we can use this to kind of assess the animal's situation.
And is this what like animal control uses when it's called to a site for concerns of animal welfare?
I don't know how it's used in pets, but I know it's used a lot in like I think this sort of model is is used in the basis of some laws around like minimum requirements for, I don't know, like farm animals and stuff. Yeah, and I read a really interesting, one of the studies was talking about how fields that use animals but do not take the animal welfare into consideration are falling out of vogue, hence the like circuses and, dog racing, that sort of thing. Like it behooves industries that rely on animals to take the welfare into consideration for them to stay kind of allowed socially.
Which is all part of the trends we've been talking about since 1960.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I don't think there's like a ton of legal weight behind the specific things, but I think this is the framework that animal welfare experts are using to evaluate animal welfare. And so like if you're a pet owner and you're trying to figure out like, is my pet living a good life? Like these are the tools you can use to ask it. And I think a lot of people with their pets really focus on the basic needs. They're like, well, they're getting food, they're getting shelter, and I'm taking them to the vet. And like, that's great, but that's only 3 of the 5. And so if you're doing that to your pet, but then you're also leaving your pet alone for long stretches of time, or if you are punishing them because they're trying to seek like entertainment and they're like destroying a couch because you're understimulating them, like that is an animal who is not getting all of their needs met. And just because you're feeding them doesn't mean that they are living a good life. And so I think that people have a pretty low bar for their pets of like, well, you know, the pet is alive and I'm feeding them, therefore they're good. Therefore I've like done my moral duty to that pet. But what I want to challenge people to think about is like, but is your animal happy? Like, does your animal have the ability to explore their environment and like interact with the world in a way that they're like biologically wired to do?
So going back to like the low bar of satisfying the animal's needs, I assume like a parent with human children and pet children, that bar is lower than a parent with just the animal children.
I think it probably is, yeah. I don't think this was explored in the same papers that were exploring the differences in how people relate to their pets, but I've definitely heard a lot of anecdotes of people of like, oh, the moment that they have kids, then the dog gets relegated to a second-class citizen sort of thing. So I think this is a really useful framework that we can use to evaluate the pets, because oftentimes pet behavior problems are because of how we're handling them. And so I read a 2024 meta-analysis that was titled "The Welfare of Dogs as an Aspect of the Human-Dog Bond." And it was looking at what are the factors that led to dog behavior issues, among other topics. And oftentimes it's the owner. So if you're not socializing your dog, if you're an inexperienced owner and you don't know how to read their body language, if the dog is living really socially isolated from other dogs, if they're in an urban environment and don't have free roam of spaces, if they have less participation in activities or training, if they're living indoors without access to a yard, like all of these are factors that can lead to a dog having behavior problems. And the article pointed out something that I found super interesting, which is that we interpret those behavior problems as like the dog is misbehaving, the dog is experiencing anxiety or something like that. But oftentimes it is just like normal frustration. Like think if you were left alone in a house all the day, like a whole day without stimulation, and you're not able to relieve yourself, you're not able to entertain yourself, you're just given a couple like plastic doohickeys and like that's all. And like you can't engage with the world the way that you want to engage with the world. Like you are going to be frustrated and you're going to act out because you're bored or you get depressed. And so we've seen a rise in medication for dogs. The industry for pet anxiety meds has been growing, I think like 6% year over year, like twice as fast as inflation. And that's pretty nuts. Somewhere between 17 and 30% of dogs are considered anxious. But based on this paper, a lot of that is because of how we are treating them. It's because we're not meeting all 5 of their needs. We're probably only meeting 3 of them.
Yeah, and I mean, this reminds me of like your initial drive to do this podcast episode was like the dogs are being taken for granted, I guess would be the softest way to put it.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And I wanted to explore that, like, are they actually, and how do we evaluate that? And the answer is we have a framework. It's all 5 of these. The fact that 2 of these frameworks are a little bit more about like autonomy, freedom, feelings is not a thing I would have necessarily thought about, but it makes sense. Like they're sentient beings, as we talked about, so we should be affording them the same, like all of the same levels of well-being that we afford ourselves.
And what's your solution here? What's your call to action? Are we there yet?
We're almost there. I have one more data point, then we'll get to the call to action. My last data point is a 2019 study called Separation-Related Behavior Indicates the Effect of Functional Breed Selection in Dogs. A bit of a mouthful, I'll explain. This was a paper that explored the relationship between a dog breed's historical purpose and then their resulting anxious attachment. And so what they found is that dogs that had bred to be cooperative, dogs that worked really closely with humans, and like that's what their species was meant for, experienced a lot more separation.
Like the Labrador. So according to this, my dachshund should not have separation anxiety.
I do think they were on the high end. Maybe their like mole catching was a really human, like a close, like the animals that weren't as related to humans are the ones who like go off and hunt, or the ones who like go herd the animals. Like they're still working with humans, but they have a lot more autonomy as opposed to the ones who like you are cueing their every action.
Well, my understanding is that when they're underground, they have to make their own decisions, and that's why they're so stubborn.
I don't know. The paper didn't actually tell me which breeds.
Okay, bummer. That would have been so fun.
I know. I wanted to go into it. I'll go back and look again. But yeah, the conclusion, the interesting thing there is like we have bred dogs for very specific purposes, and as a result of that, they have very specific sets of characteristics. And so then it makes sense when you take a dog out of the situation that it was bred for and put it in a different situation and you're not meeting its needs, it will experience suffering.
Yeah, like my hot take is that Boston should not have as many Australian Shepherds as it does. Because those are animals that are meant to run, they're meant to herd, they're meant to be active, they're meant to be doing things, and now we're putting them in a box and asking them to walk on a sidewalk on a leash.
100%. I strongly agree. Yeah, like if you're buying a specialty breed that has, especially like a high energy working breed, like you better be giving it a high energy working type lifestyle. Otherwise, you're really doing that dog a disservice. Like just because it's cute.
They're also not that cute.
That's a hot take.
That is a hot take.
Okay, how would you sum up where we are?
The most surprising thing about the first half, as I said, is like how recent and like more or less in our lifetime, like we've seen a lot of this evolution with like PETA and with Blackfish and with like these designer dogs and with BarkBox and all these things and doggy daycare and just kind of like we're delaying kids and we have pets instead. And so like it's cool to like ground that in what researchers are doing, and like it's interesting to know like it's coming from utilitarianism and conism. It's interesting, but like I never thought of flipping it on its head and like, is the dog happy? And like I've known like if the dog is peeing in your house, like that's a you problem. Like you're not taking the dog out enough. And if the dog is destroying your furniture, that's a you problem. Like it's bored. But I never like looked much farther than that into like the Maslow hierarchy of needs for dogs, and I've never thought of it, and I guess I have, I just like haven't articulated it in the perspective of like, well, what was this dog meant for? And like that is what we're doing when we're saying like, oh, I want the Labrador or the Golden Retriever because that's a family dog, and I'm scared of pit bulls because I know they've been trained to fight, even though that's really just because they're really obedient. I've never like taken it that one step further. Like, how can we make this a more symbiotic relationship based on the dog you chose?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. I think that's a really good summary of where I'm hoping our listeners are getting to at this point. It's like we shouldn't just ask what we're getting from dogs. We should be asking what we're giving to dogs.
Ask not what your
what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country.
Yeah, it's in there.
Exactly. Okay, so I said I was about to wrap up. I am about to wrap up, but before we do that, I want to like take this in a really spicy direction and then pull back again. So my spicy question for you is, why is slavery wrong?
Oh, God. Because we're all humans, despite the color of our skin, and we all deserve the same basic rights and opportunities by the fact of being in the same country, you know.
What are the rights and opportunities that you have a right to?
Like freedom. I don't really want to say the Constitution. That feels like too man-made for me, but like I would just say free will. Like the opportunity to do what you're driven to do without getting into the ethics of murder or whatever.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense, and I agree, and I also think that's a really popular opinion. I think we all probably agree with that.
Oh, thank God. I'm not getting canceled today.
So my spicy question is, we've talked about how animals are sentient beings. We've talked about how through both utilitarianism and Kantianism, it is not a far leap to understand why animals deserve the same rights to freedom and free will and self-expression as humans do. So my question is it ethical to keep pets, or is it just slavery?
I'm not making Rudy do anything. Rudy is sleeping all day and he's happy to do it. I mean, you make me question my choice in sport, which is this where you're hoping to take it?
We're walking to a ledge. I'm going to pull us back from it, but like peer over the ledge for a minute here.
Like I ride horses Ideally, I'll be riding horses competitively. They're under saddle. And, like, they are working animals. Like, we have put them in such a situation where, like, we are giving them food and green space to graze and a clean stall, and they have to, like, cooperate in the lesson program, and they have to, like, go into the ring and jump horses. And so it's this social contract that we've constructed for the sport. And, like, as with anything, there's a kind and respectful relationship that you can build with a horse. At the end of the day, like, the horse is 2 tons. Like, if it doesn't want to jump, it doesn't have to jump. I don't know where it's going to end up in, like, the New England horse pipeline, but, like, we can't make a horse do anything. And, like, some horses do want to work. It just looks different in this day and age.
Yes, this is a perfect tee up. So based on my like my thought-provoking question and what you've just surmised about horses, is owning pets slavery? Is it wrong? I'm gonna walk us back from the ledge, but like, are you struggling with this question right now, or do you feel like you've kind of like already walked yourself back from the ledge?
I don't think it's slavery. I think it's as much slavery as it is that you like chose to work at your company and like sit behind a computer for 8 hours a day.
That's interesting though, because the horses aren't choosing to be like they're not choosing the barn that they're working at.
That is an interesting point.
Yeah, you used the social contract phrase, and I think that's really interesting, but also I don't know if the animals are willingly engaging in a social contract in the same way that me selling my time, I'm engaging in an explicit social contract.
That is fair. I think we are treating them better than slaves. I would hope we are treating them better than slaves.
You'd hope, yeah, but it's not guaranteed. Okay, but anyhow, we've walked over the ledge, we're peering over it, we're like suddenly very conflicted about, oh my God, is this wrong? Like, how do I justify it not being wrong?
I don't think a dog or a cat is wrong. I think like if it is like showing signs of boredom and like destructive behavior, like you have to take ownership of that. I'm not making Rudy do anything. I have a friend who puts her dog in agility, and that's because it has shepherd in it. Like it needs that outlet. Like, and it's for fun. Like, she's not exploiting that animal. That animal is happily doing it, and their bond is better for it. Like, I don't think dogs and cats as we have them today as pets is slavery. The show jumping thing probably is.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm going to use philosophy to explain why what you're saying makes sense, because I think you're right. There was a super interesting essay from 2018 by Professor Heather Kendrick from the Central Michigan University, who is a professor in animal ethics. The essay is called Autonomy, Slavery, and Companion Animals, and she is asking this very question and answering it. The answer that she comes to aligns really closely with what you're saying, which is that slavery is wrong because humans both have the ability to like reason about individual choices that they're making, like kind of short-term reasoning. She calls this preference liberty, like the freedom to have preferences. And humans also have the ability to reason longer term, bigger picture. And she calls that autonomous liberty. And that is, the freedom to want a life that looks different than this life. And her argument is that animals have preference liberty, the small one, but not autonomous liberty, the big one, because their brains don't work that way. And so under that assumption, something that is slavery to a human is not slavery to an animal, because as long as the animal is still given the freedom to express their preference liberty.
I will read this paper. I pulled it up. I always hate but our forebrain is bigger and has more connections and we just evolved for I just don't like that. It doesn't sit well with me. It feels very arrogant. I don't know that I can articulate it more than that, other than to say we don't really know that, do we?
Ooh, so you're arguing against her. So you think all pets are slavery. That's what I'm hearing.
But I also know, like, if you look at a horse's brain, it's all cerebellum. So that's all, like, coordination and stuff. So it's, like, also, like, not wrong at the same time. And I guess I just know that, like, I'm a good person and I'm going to do the best I can by an animal. And it's kind of like porn. Like, I know it when I see it, right? Like, I know that the animal is happy when I see it, and I can see when it's unhappy and when there's poor communication.
Yeah, so her argument originally talks about that, and, like, if you were using that same argument for a human, it would sound bad. Like, well, but I treat my slaves well. Like, they get to choose what they eat for breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
I walked into that one.
You should read the paper. I highly recommend all our listeners should read the paper. I will be linking it in the show notes. But the argument that someone is treated well does not mean that they're not a slave. Someone can both be treated well and still have their freedom of choice infringed upon.
But I also know that, like, if I put Rudy out on the street, like, I think his toxic trait is that, like, he would find one to win over in, like, 10 minutes and actually survive. But, like, in reality, he'd get hit by a car, eaten by a coyote, right? Like, where does that play into this?
Just because so she used the example of, like, a slave who had been born on a plantation and did not know any better. Like, you can't just set her free and then expect that she'll figure out how to engage with the free world and, like, be taken seriously.
That is kind of like the Duggar kids, or someone who grew up in Scientology or some, like, cult or, like, some super religious family. Like, that is all they know. So, like, against their better judgment, like, they could be doing the best they can, but they still fall flat in, like, normal society.
Yeah. And so, like, just because they would not succeed in a different situation does not mean that it makes it okay to restrict their ability to choose a different situation with humans. I'm not saying that this applies to animals, and I think her conclusion that we have different levels of reasoning is a sound one. But it is just, like, a really interesting question of, like, if animals are what we say they are in terms of being some sentient beings with wills and desires and hopes and dreams, like, is keeping them in our house okay? Is keeping them in a cage okay? Like, I know plenty of people who crate their dogs when they leave. Like, is that okay?
I guess we go back to, like, what I said originally, like, they were bred, like, they're very instinctual, like, eat, sleep, don't get killed, repeat. So I guess I can, from what you've explained of her article, I can get with the, like, short-term autonomy over the long-term autonomy.
Yeah. Well, just a thought experiment. I'm not saying we have to, like, completely throw out the pet industry. Okay, so that's what I have for you. I think we can talk about what do we do about this, and I have some thoughts there. Okay, so first, if you're a pet owner, think about the 5 domains. Think about what your pet needs to be, like, have a higher quality of life in all domains, not just in their basic needs. And I think you can do this in ways that cost money, like you could send your dog to doggy daycare, or you could do it in free ways by learning about what your pet needs and giving it to them in lower cost ways. So if you can't afford doggy daycare, a couple things that stood out to me in the papers are, like, for dogs, sniffing is super important. Like, that is a huge form of enrichment. It makes them feel a lot happier. It allows them to explore. Like, that meets their needs 4 and 5 really well. So, like, when you're going on a walk, don't drag them along going, oh my God, we have to exercise. Think instead about, like, when they're stopping and sniffing, like, that is the enrichment. That is the point. You're letting the dog go on the walk in the way that they want to go on the walk, not in the way that you want to go on a walk. So, like, that's a really small, simple reframe that can really meaningfully improve your dog's quality of life.
Yeah, going back to the guy who wrote An Immense World, like, he had a corgi, and, like, a 30-minute walk would be dedicated to, like, the physical activity, and the other 30-minute walk would be dedicated to the sniffing.
I love that. Yeah, another point that the papers were making is, like, animals have just as much need for variety in their diet as we do. And so you might be meeting all of their nutritional needs by giving them kibble, but I'm sure that's not super exciting to them. So, like, periodically just buy a different flavor of kibble. Like, throw a little bacon on there. Like, do something to, like, give them variety. I think that these are really small changes that don't have to break the bank, but then you're taking into consideration your pet's, like, higher order needs, not just their basic needs.
Yeah, and, like something like my neighbor who watches Rudy, she'll like instead of feeding it into the bowl, she'll like throw it for him and he has to go find it. And sometimes I like throw Cheerios for him if I want him off my lap and like I'm sitting at the computer or something for him to go find.
I like that, yeah. One other thing that you could think about doing, the research is very supportive of reward-based training methods and not harm-based, punishment-based. So just another thing to think about is like when you're training this dog, like they will be happier, they will respond better, and they will feel more satisfied from getting rewarded for doing the right thing as opposed to getting punished for doing the wrong thing.
And then if you are looking to get an animal, stop and think.
Yeah, I don't think that getting a pet is wrong. We've already talked about all the benefits that humans can get from the pets. And like in the world that we live in today, like there are way more pets than there are people who want them still. Otherwise, we wouldn't have shelters. So like adopting is not a bad thing. But yeah, exactly what you're saying. Kind of like think about what the right pet for you is. Examining what needs you're trying to fill from this pet is helpful because that will help you choose the right pet for you. If you want a companion animal, maybe you don't want to get a breed that was historically a high energy working breed, even if it's really cute.
Adopt an older dog.
Yeah, older dog, shelter dog, mutts. Maybe think about cats or like, you know, think of other species. Or like maybe your need is not pet specific. Maybe your need is for companionship in general and you could like join some clubs. Like maybe there are ways that you can get those needs met from humans. Like remember that we did not evolve to have pets. This is not a biological imperative. Our relationship with pets are actually hijacking our relationships to humans. So like when you feel like you need a pet, you probably don't need a pet. You probably need companionship in human form, which is not to say the pet cannot give that to you and give you a really fulfilling life, but like it doesn't have to be a pet. And if you cannot give a good life to a pet, like get a friend.
Or a Tamagotchi.
Or a Tamagotchi. Okay, my next point, and this is a personal opinion, not everybody agrees, but I do not think you should be buying dogs from breeders. The reason being, dogs from breeders, like breeds have very specific purposes, and you probably are not going to give that dog the life that it needs to be fully fulfilled. So instead, if you're going to be like not fully meeting your dog's needs at all times, go for a dog that already exists. Don't make a new dog.
That's an interesting way of looking at it, actually.
Yeah, it's more about the signal. This feels a little bit like the diamond engagement ring. Like if you're going to get a diamond engagement ring, reuse an existing one. Don't send a new signal to the diamond industry, the dog industry, that they need to be making more, because I think that feeds into this idea that like having a designer dog or having a purebred dog is okay. And it is a status symbol, and like, you know, maybe that dog is, maybe you'll be able to control its traits more because you know what the breed is. So like I understand the value of it, and like not everybody's going to agree with me, but if you're open to a shelter dog, I think that will be better because then they're not making a new dog just for you.
I agree. I have unfortunately like fallen for all the wrong traps because I was 8 and then I was ignorant, but no, I generally agree.
Yeah. I mean, to your credit, you got that dog from what you thought was a shelter, not a puppy mill. Okay, and then my last point is actually for people, to kind of tie it all the way back to the beginning, which is like people who have pets instead of babies, or people who are considering having pets instead of babies. I read an article about how insane the cost of grooming is getting. People are spending $10,000 to groom their pets. Like people are...
What?
I'll send that one to you too. It was a New York Times article.
Is this in like Asia where they're like getting their dogs trimmed like teddy bears?
It's in New York. They're probably also trimming their dogs like teddy bears. So anyhow, people are spending crazy money on their pets. And so I'm like, if you're going to do it on a pet, like do it for a human. I don't know. I'm a little speciesist. I kind of want the human race to continue. Like if you're going to be putting that much energy into caring for a thing, like why not just do a baby? And like, you know, we did talk about the study earlier about how...
That is a hot take. Like it is very different to have an animal.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about the study earlier. Like they're very different. They have different needs. There's an order of magnitude cost difference. Again, this is not for everybody. I have so many friends who are amazing people. They're very attractive, they're smart, they're thoughtful, they're lovely, and they don't want to have kids. And I'm like, but the world needs more of you in it. Like, I would love for you to have kids. So, again, hot take. Doesn't have to be right for everybody, but the dog's not putting you in a nursing home when you're older. Like, there are some things you get from humans that you just can't get from pets. So, yeah, that's kind of what I got. I didn't really want to be super preachy. Like, I don't love the idea of coming on a podcast and being like, y'all are doing this wrong. But the more that I learned about...
It's a PSA.
Yeah. Yeah. And the more that I learned about the ethics of animals and the fact that they are sentient beings, the more that I'm like, I don't know, I actually kind of feel like I need to be a little preachy. Like...
We take it for granted.
Yeah, this isn't really a moral gray area. I think there, like, is a right and a wrong way to have a pet. And a right and a wrong way to, like, choose if you should have a pet. So... I don't think people need to agree everything with me, but I think that there's a lot of research and thought and philosophical arguments that support giving animals at least limited access to autonomy and freedom and purpose. Oh, okay, that was our journey.
So what would you tell your 20-year-old self?
I want to turn it around on you. Do you have any, like, conclusions, thoughts? I have my own thoughts, but I've been doing a lot of talking. Like, what did you take from this? How do you feel? What advice do you have for yourself, your 20-year-old self?
I mean, the obvious thing would be, like, you shouldn't have gotten Rudy, but, like, that, no, like, I need Rudy. I think, I mean, my advice based on how lucky I got with Rudy in that, like, I had people who were and are willing to help me take care of him. The fact that, like, he is a very easy dog. He doesn't need much. He's very portable. Like, he loves going in the car. I just have to plop him there, and, like, I have cute dog privilege. I can bring him into a lot of places and it's fine.
That dog has gone into so many places he's not supposed to be. We've gone into all of the restaurants and libraries and grocery stores and...
I try to avoid grocery stores unless it's, like, really cold or really hot in the car. That being said, like, and, like, this comes with, like, generally with my consumerism, like, the things I regret most buying are the things I didn't, like, read the fine print on. It's just, like... know where he's coming from. Again, I love that dog, but just, like, being a more educated consumer, doing a better job training him. I did kind of just have this theory that he's 10 pounds, so, like, how bad can it get? You just pick him up. So train your dog.
He's definitely pretty shouty if you aren't with him. Good advice.
Yeah, just be an educated consumer, I think, is the bottom line.
Mm-hmm. And it's not too late to be an educated consumer, too. You could already have a dog, and that dog could be middle-aged, and it's not too late to start just, like, letting them sniff more on the walk and, like, switching up their food. And, like, I don't think anybody should leave this episode being like, Jackie doesn't want me to have pets, or Jackie wants me to get rid of my pet or something. Like, no, love the shit out of that pet. That pet's, you're probably getting a ton from that. That pet is having a good life with you, but how can you just, like, be a little bit more thoughtful about how you engage with that pet? Okay, my advice for my 20-year-old self...
Don't get the hedgehog. I feel like you owe people the hedgehog story.
I owe people the hedgehog story, and I actually have a picture of the hedgehog, which I am going to end on. That is actually what my advice was.
Oh, okay, good.
Okay, everybody, you are looking at a picture of Chewy.
That is actually Chewy?
That is actually Chewy. This is the only good picture I have of him from college because there was some girl who was an amateur photographer who took a really nice, like, picture with the, like, blurred background, whatever.
Okay. I was going to say, did you pay for him to get professional photos?
No.
Okay.
But I'm keeping her watermark on there, so this is not my picture. A woman took it who is a good photographer. Anyhow, the story of Chewy is I was, 19, 20. I was in a relationship. We were long distance. We'd been dating a year or two, and we almost broke up, and then we didn't break up, and we were like, you know what we should do instead? We should get a pet together. And we liked looking at pictures of cute animals, and he really liked hedgehogs. And so we got a hedgehog from a breeder, and we traded it back and forth, despite being long distance, for the next year. And then we broke up. And then I had a hedgehog for the next 5 years.
That's about it.
That's not the whole story. No, this hedgehog lived with us in college. He was illegal. Everybody loved him.
Like, literally in the state, he was illegal. Like an endangered, invasive species.
Yeah. Is there more to the story? What am I missing?
I mean, you kind of ignored him.
Yeah, I met his basic needs. I was not a five model, 5 domains pet owner. He lived the appropriate amount of time for a hedgehog. So I'm proud that I did not neglect him to the point that he died young. He lived a long, happy life. Well, a long and long life. Yeah, he kind of just, like, lived in his enclosure. It was a pretty big enclosure. He had a lot of space. It was like way bigger than a hamster cage, but
He had a Ferris wheel thing.
he had like a hamster wheel thing that he did a lot of running on. And I fed him and I watered him. And sometimes we played with him. And that was about it. I should not have gotten a pet. I think my answer is similar to yours, which is like I should have read the fine print. He was really cute, but like also hedgehogs are not domesticated. They don't love you. They don't have it. They don't want anything to do with you. He like was socialized. That's why we have this cute picture of him. But it wasn't like he wanted, like he didn't bond with me the same way a dog would.
Yeah. His ears are so big.
Isn't he cute? He's so cute. He was an adorable pet.
Yeah. You would put him in your pocket and take him to the fishbowl.
The fishbowl was the basement computer lab for the chemical engineers at our college.
I think I liked that the best.
He was a really good pocket pet. Zoe and I both got pets when we were
young and dumb. Rest in peace, Chewy.
Yeah. So anyhow, that's our thoughts. If you like this episode, give us 5 stars. I don't know. Share it with your friends. If you are enjoying this podcast, the best thing you can do is share it with friends who you think would enjoy it, because we like making it and we want to keep making it, which is easier to do when people are listening. So yeah, thanks for listening. Thanks for going on this journey with me. Pets are not slaves.
Okay, good. I'll just tell myself that. I don't know if I believe it yet, but I'll tell myself that.
You'll read the article, then you'll see. I mean, they're not slaves, but they're not slaves, you know?
I'll figure it out.
Yeah. So think about it.
All right. Thanks, Jackie. This was fun.
Yeah. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye, guys.